Hi there and welcome, it's Jenna from McGuire. So recently I have needed to make a ton of thank you notes for various things, some for me, some for friends, and I thought I'd go ahead and make a ton all in one day and film it for you. Now for these cards, they're all one layer, and I used a sentiment backdrop technique. This is where I take a sentiment and I stamp it repeatedly to be like a backdrop for my stamped image. This is something you can do with any sentiment and with any stamped images. So I made a ton of cards. I'm going to share the technique with you today and a few of the examples. I will also have pictures of each of the cards over on my blog. Now the cards that I'm making today are 4 by 5 1/4, just a little bit smaller than usual. I used a 110-pound heavyweight Nina White cardstock since these will be one layer cards. I wanted them to be nice and sturdy. I'm going to start with this example first. Now I am using the MISTI stamp positioner today. You can do this technique without this stamping tool, but as you will see, it makes it very easy to get the look we're going for here. I'm starting out with this fabulous stamp set called Geometric Greenery from My Favorite Things. This is one of those stamp sets that can be used for a variety of occasions, and there are some incredible sentiments in it. You need to check that out. But for this card, I'm actually going to use the sentiment "You Are a Blessing" from this Fox stamp set. You'll see that stamp set again later in this video. So I'm centering up my image and my greeting on the center of my card, and I'm closing the MISTI door on it so it's ready to stamp repeatedly in the same place. I'm using my magnet to hold the card closed and in place in the corner of the MISTI, and I'm inking up my sentiment and the image with my Hero Arts black ink. You could really use any black ink here. I'm going to be doing some quick watercolor on top of it, so I decided to go with this good black ink. And if you stamp it once and it doesn't stamp very solid the first time, the nice thing about the MISTI is you can just stamp it again right on top and make it even darker or more solid. So you'll see here that I'm going through and stamping a bunch of cards at once so that I can end up with a ton of them by the time I'm done with this. Now I need to have a mask for the leaf, so what I'm doing is stamping this onto a full sticky Post-it notepad. So it has full sticky on the back of these, and I'm grabbing 3 Post-its at once. I'm going to cut out the leaf and cut all 3 layers at once. This way I'll have 3 perfect masks ready to go. In case one of them gets too inky, I'll have a backup. Sometimes if you do a lot of stamping over a mask, it gets inky and the ink starts to bleed through. So this is a handy trick. And those Post-it notepads are pretty inexpensive, so you can get a long life out of them. So there I have all of my leaves ready to go. Okay, so now I have removed the leaf, but I'm keeping that sentiment in the exact same place that it was before when we did our first stamping. You can see I'm cleaning it off here, making sure that the black ink is completely off. Sometimes stamps are tough to clean. All I do is clean them off and kind of stamp them a few times just to make sure they're clean. I don't want to remove this sentiment from the position it's in. You can see it lines up with the original stamping we did. Now here's the trick. I'm going to take it and shift it a 1/4 of an inch up. And then I'm going to ink it with a light brown ink and stamp it again. Then I'll shift it another 1/4 of an inch up. I'm using the grid on the pink there on the left, and I'll stamp it again. The 1/4 of an inch was perfect for the height of this sentiment. You can either make it less or more depending on how tall your sentiment is. Usually a 1/4 of an inch or a 1/2 inch does the trick. So now I need to do upward on the card. So I'm shifting my card down. You'll see that it's kind of hanging out the bottom of the MISTI. That's okay. I just make sure that it's up against the ledge every time I do it. And I move down a 1/4 of an inch each time. Now I think Christina Werner just did a video where she did shifting stamping in her MISTI also. I had filmed this before. We had Great Minds Think Alike, and I'm just now getting to share it. But I will link to her video so you can see another way to use this technique. Now in this other example, I used this adorable My Favorite Things hedgehog, and I drew a little heart in his hand. I wanted to show you that you can continue your sentiment stamping all the way up to the top and all the way to the bottom of the card. So it looks like you just have this backdrop of sentiments going down the card. All you need to do is shift it the same amount each time, and check it out. You can get a fun background this way. This is a great way to really put any favorite sentiments kind of in a focal point and keep a card very simple in one layer. So at this point, I was digging through all my stamps and just finding any cute images that I have been really wanting to use and putting them on the center of the card. I thought I'd use this adorable pig from My Favorite Things and stamp all around him. And you can see how you can keep a favorite image in focus, but also add a little bit of interest with your sentiment backdrop. Here I just used a light pink ink to stamp all around the little pig. Then I can remove this and I can color it any way I want. Okay, so let's go into some variations of this. Here I used a 2-line sentiment for my backdrop, and I really like the look of this. So the stamp set that I'm using is this thank you stamp set from My Favorite Things. There you go. Lila just woke up from her nap and she brought me her lovey. So the lovey is going to sit there. His name is Bucky, and he's going to sit there in the top of the corner for the rest of the video. Anyways, so I have a sentiment from this that I wanted to team up with yet another couple leaves from that original stamp set that I used. So I went ahead and stamped them with black. I have my masks ready to go. And so I'm going to put them right in position. And now I'm going to repeatedly stamp in the background with a green ink. Now, since this is a taller sentiment because it's 2 lines, I need to shift it a 1/2 inch each time. You can see I'm going down a 1/2 inch each time. I need to shift it a 1/2 inch each time to make room for the sentiment. So you can use any size sentiment you want for this technique. You just need to make sure that you shift a little bit higher than the height of whatever sentiment you're using. So you can see I'm getting great spacing using this technique with the bigger sentiment also. Now keep in mind you can do this with an acrylic block. You could use a stamp positioner like a Stamp-A-Majig, or just eyeball it and kind of line it up each time. But you can see how the MISTI really makes this easy. So I wanted to show you one more variation before we go, and that is to stamp on a diagonal. So here I have positioned my leaf and my sentiment on a little bit of a diagonal in the center of the card, and I stamped it with black ink on a bunch of cards. Now I'm cutting a mask. Instead of cutting each of these leaves separately, I'm just kind of cutting it with a little halo around it, just to save me some time. Putting the mask in place, and now I can stamp that sentiment, which is still in the same position, by shifting up a 1/2 inch each time or down a 1/2 inch each time. I'm using a lighter blue ink for this, and you can see it's done in the same way. Because my sentiment is at the angle, it will stay at that angle the whole time. So you can get a really unique look doing this. You can do this with things besides sentiments also. You could do this with border stamps, anything you want. It's a great technique and a great way to make a bunch of cards really fast. In fact, on this day, I made about 60 cards. I did all the stamping, then I took them outside with some watercolor pencils and did all the coloring at once, and it was so much fun. I actually used the new Crafter's Companion Colorista coloring pencils. They're watercolor pencils, and they were so much fun to use. After I did the coloring, I did do a layer of Spectrum Noir Shimmer Pen Clear Shimmer on top of all of the coloring so that it had some added shine too. You can see I did a ton of different images. This is a little My Favorite Things owl. I mixed things up. I did some unique color combinations and just had fun playing around with all the cards that I made. I'll have pictures of all of these cards over my blog. And I also did stamp a sentiment on the matching envelopes, which I'll talk about on my blog also. Thank you for watching this. I hope you'll give this idea of creating a sentiment backdrop a try. It's a great way to mass produce cards, make simple 1-layer cards with whatever you have on hand. If you are interested in the products, they're all linked below in my YouTube description. You can go to my blog for the supplies or more pictures of the cards. In the middle are 2 other videos that might be of interest. The first is another technique that's great for 1 layer. And the second video is how to mass produce with the MISTI stamping tool. Thanks for watching. Hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you soon.